Hey everybody, it's Dr. Eric Nepute here. I wanted to take a minute and share something with you. I just got the phone with some friends of mine who, amazing doctors out of Southern California, and they were talking about some of the research that they were doing with head injuries, spinal cord, and all this kind of stuff. So I want to show you a couple things. In fact, let me talk to you a little bit about head injuries, chiropractic's role, about physiology, just a little bit about health. Okay, so first of all, head injuries and concussions are a big problem. Okay, they're all over the news. I mean, obviously the NFL has got all this kind of bad PR going because of, we're seeing that, studies coming out, what was it, 111 out of 112 autopsies of retired NFL athletes showed signs of CTE, chronic traumatic encephalitis, which is basically chronic swelling in the brain from repetitive injuries. What we found is the younger that kids are when they start playing contact sports, the higher likelihood of they having a head injury. Now, since the news came out about Mr. Hernandez, one of the wide receivers in the NFL a couple weeks ago, basically finding out that he's 27 years old. Aaron Hernandez had phase 3 CTE, which is just horrible. Okay, horrible. But football's a great sport. It's an amazing sport. I love it. I played it at a high level. I work with a lot of professional athletes. But there's a lot of issues going on right now with head injuries and head traumas and all that stuff. I want to take a minute and talk to you about something. So let me grab something as a prop here. So this is a football helmet, right? So this little helmet protects our head, skull, face, neck, jaw, that kind of stuff. Now we obviously wear a mouth guard as well, and there's a chin strap on this. But the deal is that the helmet helps the impact, right? It helps the outside in force, but the inside out force is still there. You think about, your brain sitting in a jar with water in it. When that jar shakes, the brain's still going to move around, and the brain's going to hit the inside of the skull, and it's like a soft sponge hitting like a hard piece of bone. And what happens is that we get, just like anything else, when we get an injury, we get swelling, we get inflammation. You guys have banged your elbow, your knee, rolled your ankle before. You get swelling in there. Swelling is actually a protective mechanism that the body puts down. The problem is chronic swelling, chronic inflammation can lead to degeneration. So this helmet saves people's lives, don't get me wrong. But what happens is, and I'm going to draw you a picture, is the brain. So here's your brain. There's your cerebellum. I'm a phenomenal artist. Here's your spinal cord. Okay. So your brain lives inside your skull, right? Here are your eyeballs. Let's just do this right. So here are your eyeballs. Here's your skull. There's that. There's your nose, mouth, all that stuff. Okay, there's your head. And right here are these 7 bones that make up your cervical spine. 7 of them. Okay? So when you have impact, when your head hits something, what happens is the helmet protects the skull, right? But the brain still can move around because it's basically just free floating in there. Does that make sense? Well, the spinal cord is the same deal. So what happens, you guys, in the body, we found just a couple years ago in science, I think 2 or 3 years ago, we just found that there's a lymphatic drainage system in the head and neck. So nutrients actually come up through the front of the spine, right? From the rest of the body, they come up through the front in the cerebrospinal fluid. They give nutrients to the brain, so it gives oxygen and it gives the vitamins and the macronutrients and all the stuff that the body needs for it to heal, reproduce, and to function. Well, the toxins, just like a normal system of drainage, have to come out one way or the other. And they come out of this little hole in your skull called the clivus. It's the hole where the spinal cord comes through. And it drains out the backside and goes into the spinal cord and then ultimately comes out as waste product. Well, if the neck has this beautiful banana curve, look at this, I brought even a banana. If the neck has a beautiful banana curve like this, life is good. Everything can flow like it's supposed to. There's no kink in the system. But what happens is this, in many cases when we get a head injury, we don't realize that we also get a neck injury. And we'll start to lose, there's your spinal cord now, and we'll start to lose that normal curve. So it stacks up and gets flat. Well, what happens is, think about this, if I take a banana that's curved like this and there's fruit inside of it, and I make the banana go straight, what happens to the fruit inside the banana? It smashes, compresses it, right? It injures it, okay? That little squishy stuff inside there gets ruined. The same thing's true whenever your neck starts to flatten out. So now we got this tube that's supposed to be open. We have fluid that's supposed to flow through it. And now because of a head and neck trauma, the fluid can't drain like it's supposed to. We get compression. So now we get all this chronic swelling in here. And so think about this. What happens is when you have a chronic inflammation or somewhere, the body adapts to it, right? It's really smart. So who's ever gone out in the yard and like mowed the yard or raked or even weightlifted, and next thing you know, you get calluses on your hands, right? Well, those calluses are not the problem. The callus is there to actually protect the body, right, from continuing injury. So we start getting things like proteins, binding proteins, start increasing in the cerebrospinal fluid in the brain, and it starts to make the brain matter like a callus. It makes it hard. In fact, when it makes it hard, it kind of shrinks it a little bit, so the brain outside gets hard. When it gets hard, it doesn't function like it's supposed to, and it actually starts to atrophy. It gets smaller. So in certain areas of the brain, like the frontal lobe and the amygdala, get injured the most, which is why with CTE, chronic traumatic encephalitis, we get things like emotional changes. We get, like you guys have seen Jim McMahon's 30 by 30. He works with a group of doctors that do the same type stuff we do. And so he talks in there about how when he gets this specific treatment, adjustment to his neck, it opens the tube up. And he talks about how the head, the skull is like a toilet bowl. Fills up, best way to explain it, it's like a toilet bowl. It fills up with fluid and backs up. Well, if you don't have the curve, it can't flush. So what we do is we help move and manipulate a curvature back in the cervical spine by doing adjustments. And guess what it does? It causes the toilet to drain and flush, taking the pressure out of the cranium, allowing for the brain and body to start functioning better. Does that make sense? And then what we do also is with our Pro-IV protocols, our Pro-IV intravenous nutrition, where we can take mega doses of micronutrients, and we can put them like megadose vitamin C and B vitamins, zinc, other minerals, and amino acids that we know that get out of balance whenever we have a head injury because of biomarkers. And we know that. It's just science. We know it. So we are able to give megadose vitamins to these individuals to reduce the inflammation and give the body the stuff that it needs. And then physically we're able to adjust the spine and get the curvature to go back to normal. That's why we're able to see NFL, NCAA, high school kids as well get faster results, neurologically better, faster, and it doesn't cause as much repetitive injury. Now we know that when a kid has a concussion, by the way, the CDC says anywhere between, this is what the research says, and I know this is a big gap, between 2.8 and 3.5 million concussions per year. Not just from sports, but from recreational, non-recreational across the board. That's a lot of head injuries. So, and by the way, we have more head injuries in car accidents and falling off the park and all that stuff than we do in football, but football's on TV, right? And these celebrities that we're watching for a long time, we find out that there's big problems and crazy stuff happens. And so we've found that by getting the curvature to drain, the physiology works better, the brain can drain. It just makes sense. By using the Pro-IV, the IV nutrition, it allows the body to get the micro and macronutrients it needs. Plus, we know things like acetaminophen are really beneficial to do post-concussion. You don't want to do a lot of anti-inflammatories because it can cause more bleeding, but acetaminophen is actually very beneficial. We also know that whenever you have a head injury, that you're more likely to blow out a knee, blow out an ankle, and all the stuff when you get back on the field because your balance or proprioception off. The reason why balance and proprioception are off is what happens is the vestibular system, part of the brain that keeps everything balanced, like a level, when you guys are looking at a level to hang a picture or, level anything out, the leveling system gets messed up. So that puts your body at a position of further injury. And so we know that this is not going to prevent the head injuries and concussions, but we now know that there are ways to treat them to reduce the morbidity and mortality of traumatic brain injuries and concussions. So it's really super cool. I just wanted you guys to see this. So whether you play sports, and I'm not talking about just football, you guys, girls soccer and boys soccer, lots of head injuries. Rugby, lots of head injuries. Hockey, you guys, even baseball, getting hit in the head with a baseball or sliding into home or second. You name it, you guys. They're susceptible to injuries all the time. Dr. Patrick Porter's research on headaches and concussions shows that the average 9-year-old has anywhere between 8 to 10 concussions, in some cases even more, by the time that they're 8 or 9 years old. So car accidents, falls, all these things can contribute to this. So that's why to see is to know. That's why we like to run these, what are called brain scan, EEG scans, and what's called HRV, heart rate variability, to look at brain function. because then we can measure it. And what we're doing now is with a lot of these athletes, we're doing a preseason brain scan of them to get an idea where they're at. And then if they have a suspected injury or concussion, we can measure them. And then if we see the numbers drop, we know that that kid is concussed and they cannot return back on the field until their numbers are back to normal. So we're actually using science to back this up, as opposed to, it used to be if a kid had a concussion, they'd have to sit out a week. As long as they're symptom-free for a week, we get them back into some exercise. If they still do good, then they're back on the field. And we know now through neuroscience that's not the best way to measure this stuff. So I wanted to share this with you. This is really cool stuff, how chiropractic works with medicine, works with neurology, all this stuff, and nutrition to help reduce the effects and injuries of traumatic brain injuries, concussions, things of that nature. And you guys, there's so much research coming out on this right now. It's not even funny because it's a super hot topic. So if anybody has any questions about that, please feel free to email us or give us a call, 314-544-5600. We're always putting out information about this, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Have a great day. I'm Dr. Eric Nepute. It's nice talking to you. I'll see you next time.